My name is Saima. I'm 41 years old. I live in F11, Islamabad, and on the morning my world tilted, I was standing in the boardroom of my father-in-law's textile mill thinking I was finally going to be seen. When Zara, my husband's younger sister and the CEO's only daughter, walked in without knocking and said, very quietly, "We don't need your ideas anymore." I felt the air leave the room and my lungs at the same time. It was mid-June. The AC was fighting a losing battle against the heat that pressed against the glass windows. The projector fan made its usual soft whine. My presentation slide, the one showing 28% projected growth if we shifted to GOTS-certified organic cotton and launched a proper e-commerce site, was still frozen behind me. I had spent 4 months building that deck. For months of late nights after putting Aisha and Bilal to bed. For months of spreadsheets while Faisal slept beside me. For months of believing that this time, finally, the family would let my voice carry the same weight as theirs. Uncle Rashid, the man who once called me Mary Beatty, louder than he called his own daughter, sat at the head of the table, fingers laced over his stomach, eyes on the polished wood instead of me. Faisal, my husband of 13 years, kept his gaze on his phone screen. No one corrected her. No one said, "Let Saima finish." The silence stretched until it hurt my ears. Zara didn't raise her voice. She never had to. She simply placed her phone face down on the table. A small, expensive click, and continued. "We've already signed with the Dubai consultants. They start next week. Thank you for your effort, Bobby." That word, Bobby, landed differently that day. Not warm, not family, polite, full stop. I looked at Faisal again, waiting for him to lift his head, to say something, anything. He didn't. His thumb kept scrolling, slow and mechanical, like he was reading news that had nothing to do with us. I managed to say only one thing before my throat closed. "Okay." Just that. One word. Then I closed the laptop lid, softly, the way I closed the children's bedroom door at night. Gathered my dupatta and walked out. The corridor smelled of machine oil and new carpet. My heels echoed too loudly. By the time I reached the parking lot, the monsoon clouds had gathered, dark and heavy, but it still hadn't rained. To understand why that one sentence broke me the way it did, you have to understand the life we had built, or at least the life I thought we had built. Brick by brick, meal by meal, late night by late night. Our house in F11 was never quiet. Mornings began with the clatter of steel on the tawa as Ami made fresh parathas. Aisha, 9 now, would come running in school uniform, hair still damp from the shower, begging for extra ghee. Bilal, 6.5 and fearless, would climb onto Faisal's lap and demand one more story before school, Abu please. Faisal would laugh that low, easy laugh of his and say, "Only if mummy says yes." I would pretend to think about it while pouring chai, the steam curling around my fingers, the cardamom hitting the back of my throat the way it had every morning for 13 years. At the mill, I started in the accounts section, just helping after marriage because Faisal said, "You're too smart to sit at home." Within 3 years, I was handling supplier negotiations. When the pandemic almost killed the business, it was my idea to pivot to home textile masks and export them through Instagram. We survived because of that pivot. Uncle Rashid hugged me in front of everyone and said, "This girl has saved us." Even Zara smiled that day, a real one, small but real. I believed we were a team. I believed family meant carrying each other. I was wrong. The first small fracture came about 5 weeks before that boardroom morning. Faisal started coming home later, not dramatically late, just enough that the children were already in pajamas and the dinner plates were covered with steel lids to keep the food warm. He'd walk in smelling faintly of the office air conditioner and something sharper, like expensive perfume that wasn't mine. When I asked, he'd shrug and say, "Zara wanted to go over some figures after hours. Baba's been tired, you know how it is." I knew how it was. Uncle Rashid had diabetes. The doctor kept warning about stress. So I nodded, reheated the dalchawal, sat across from him while he ate in silence, and told myself I was being paranoid. Wives notice things, but sometimes we notice shadows instead of people. Then there were the small things that piled up like dust under furniture. Zara began attending meetings I used to lead. She'd forward me emails with FYI at the top, no greeting, no warmth. Once I found her in my old cubicle, now hers, rearranging the files I'd color-coded for years. She looked up, smiled that tight, polite smile and said, "Bobby, I'm just organizing. You don't mind, do you?" I minded, but I smiled back and said, "Of course not." At home, Faisal grew quieter. Our conversations shrank to logistics. Who would pick up Aisha from tuition? Did Bilal finish his homework? Should we get the AC serviced before Ramzan? When I tried to talk about the business, about the new cotton supplier I'd found in Multan, he changed the subject. "Let's not bring work home, John. I'm tired." One evening, I came home early to surprise the children with ice cream cones from the little shop near the park. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I found Faisal in the study, door half open on speakerphone. "She'll understand eventually," Zara's voice said, tinny through the phone. It's not personal, Faisal. It's survival. The Dubai people can get us MOUs with H&M level buyers. Saima Bobby's ideas are sweet, but we're drowning in sweet right now. Faisal murmured something I couldn't catch. Then Zara again. Baba already signed the NDA. It's done. Just keep her focused on the kids for a while. I stood in the hallway holding melting vanilla cones, the cold dripping onto my sandals, until the sweetness turned sticky on my fingers. I didn't confront him that night. I wiped the cones clean, kissed the children goodnight while they slept with sticky mouths, and lay beside Faisal pretending to sleep. His breathing was even, too even. Mine wasn't. The next 4 weeks I worked harder on the pitch than I ever had. I told myself if I could just show the numbers, show the real difference organic and ethical sourcing could make, we'd turn back to the family we used to be. I practiced in the car on the way to school drop-off, whispering the closing line to the rearview mirror. This isn't just fabric. It's our children's future we're weaving. The morning of the presentation I wore my mother's gold bangles for courage. They made a soft chime when I moved my hands. Faisal kissed my forehead before we left the house and whispered, "You're going to kill it." I believed him, until Zara walked in, until those 5 words, until the room decided I was no longer necessary. I drove home alone that day. The first fat raindrops hit the windshield just as I turned onto our street. I didn't turn on the wipers. I let them blur everything. When I stepped inside, the house smelled of the lunch Amy had left warming on the stove. Bindi and roti. I sat at the kitchen table, still in my formal shower kameez, and stared at the faint tea stain on the tablecloth I'd never quite managed to remove. That night Faisal came home at 10. He found me in the same chair. He didn't say sorry. He said, "We need to talk." I looked at him, really looked, and answered very calmly, "Yes, we do." We didn't raise our voices that night. The children were asleep upstairs. The ceiling fan turned slowly, stirring the same warm air around and around. Faisal sat forward in the armchair, elbows on knees, staring at his clasped hands as though the answers were written on his knuckles. "I thought I was protecting the family," he said finally. "Baba's blood pressure has been spiking. The bank was threatening to call the loan. Zara showed me the projections. The Dubai firm promised turnaround in months, not years. She said your plan was too slow, too expensive. I believed her." "You believed her over me?" I corrected, voice steady. "After 13 years. After everything I've done for this house, this business, these children." He looked up then. His eyes were red-rimmed. "I was scared, Saima. Scared we'd lose it all." "You already lost us," I said quietly. The next day I didn't go to the mill. I took the children to school, kissed their foreheads longer than usual, and came home to pack what mattered. My mother's old recipe book, the children's baby albums, the small gold set my parents gave me at our wedding. I left the rest. The house wasn't mine anymore, not in the way it used to be. I moved back to my parents' flat in G9. 2 bedrooms, 1 balcony overlooking a neem tree. Small, noisy, safe. Amy made me chai without asking questions. Abu sat with me on the charpai in the evenings and said only, "You're home now, beta. That's enough." 3 weeks later came the Sunday family lunch, the one ritual no one ever missed. I went, not for reconciliation, for the children. They deserved to see their nana-nanny, their cousins. I walked in holding Aisha and Bilal's hands. The smell of nahari hit me first, rich and familiar. The table was set the same way. White tablecloth, steel bowl steaming, Uncle Rashid at the head. Zara sat in what used to be my chair. I didn't flinch. I greeted everyone. "Assalamu alaikum." Kissed Uncle Rashid's hand, hugged Amy-in-law. Then I remained standing. "I've come to say a few things," I began. My voice carried just enough to quiet the room. "I've resigned from Rashid Textiles. Completely. No notice period. No handover fights. It's done." Zara's fork paused. Faisal looked down at his plate. "But," I continued, "before I left, I sent the bank a personal guarantee letter. My name only, covering the outstanding loan for 12 more months. Only 12. If the Dubai consultants deliver the MOUs and revenue they promised in black and white, the guarantee stands. If they don't, and the accounts start bleeding again, the guarantee ends. And I've kept every single file, every email, every signed note from the past 10 years. Not to fight you, to make sure no one can rewrite what really happened here." Silence. Thick, heavy. Uncle Rashid's voice came next, small and cracked. "Saima Beatty, why?" "Because I love this family," I answered. "Even now. But love doesn't mean staying silent when someone tries to erase you." I looked at Zara last. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I'm not taking anything from you," I told her. "I'm just making sure you remember the cost of ambition without heart." Then I took the children's hands and left. No drama. No slammed doors. Just quiet footsteps down the marble stairs. The Dubai team came. They spent. They advertised. They imported shiny synthetics. Orders came at first, then slowed, then stopped. The bank letters started arriving 6 months later. Zara's Instagram posts went from confident to strained. Faisal began calling. Not every day, just once a week at first, then more. One evening he stood outside my parents' gate in the rain, holding a plastic bag of warm jalebi from the old corner shop. I chose wrong, he said. I let fear speak louder than love. I let the rain fall on him a little longer. Then I opened the door. We're not fixed. Not yet. We talk, really talk, on Saturday afternoons while the children play in the small courtyard. He's learning to listen. I'm learning to trust again, one small piece at a time. I started my own small consultancy, helping other textile families move towards sustainable lines. Clients call. Work grows. The neem tree outside my window drops yellow flowers every morning. I sweep them up and feel grateful for the mess. Sometimes justice doesn't shout. Simply stands up, speaks once clearly, and then keeps walking forward. I lost a seat at the table, but I found my place in the world. And that place has room for forgiveness when it's earned. My dear listeners of Broken Trust Stories, have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your dignity? Would you have stayed quiet? Or would you have done what I did? Tell me in the comments. Your stories matter. They remind us we're not alone. Subscribe if these real hearts touch yours. We'll meet again next week with another truth that needed to be told. Until then, hold your worth gently, and never let anyone convince you it's negotiable.